Annie Jacobsen is here, and she is the author of Area 51, an uncensored history of America's top secret military base. And Annie Jacobsen is a contributing editor at Los Angeles Times Magazine, a graduate of Princeton University. The book website is area51thebook.com. That's area51thebook.com. Annie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Now, this is a base in southern Nevada. As I understand, it doesn't even appear on public U.S. government maps. How big is it, and generally, why so secret?
Well, the base itself is inside of the largest federal land parcel, federally restricted land parcel in the United States. It's the size of Connecticut.
Okay.
Inside of that is a smaller base the size of the state of Rhode Island that's called the Nevada Test and Training Range, where we exploded 100 nuclear bombs during the Area 51 early days. Mm-hmm. And Area 51 sits right adjacent to all these other areas that are parceled for the atomic bomb tests.
I see.
And the reason why it's so secret is because it was set up in the 1950s as this CIA and Air Force and Atomic Energy Commission, co-sponsored program to push science and technology faster than any other nation on Earth, specifically Russia.
Okay. Before I want to ask you specifically about the Cold War, Annie, but your sources seem really terrific here. What were your sources for this book?
Oh, my goodness. Area 51 is just peopled by these amazing, you almost want to say characters because they are all so larger than life. Mm-hmm. I write about individually. These men, let me interview them over the course of several years for the first time for this book, going on the record. They're spy pilots, they're atomic bomb makers, generals, war heroes, engineers, all with either a top secret clearance or a Q clearance, which allows you to work with nuclear secrets. Many of them actually had both.
Now, are these generally the sources, and there are many of them, over 70, you say, are these generally people there who worked years and years ago there, Annie?
Yes, that's a great point. What I'm writing about, the kernel of Area 51 is, of course, the 50s and the 60s. Okay. This Cold War that was so dramatic and throbbing behind the scenes. We never went to war. We never had World War III, but boy, did we come close. And there's so many examples of that at Area 51. I touch upon a few things that went on at Area 51 recently. Some of the drones, our original desire to assassinate bin Laden before the World Trade Center attacks.
Wow.
And these are, incredible little glimpses of contemporary Area 51 we get. But for the most part, that remains absolutely top secret classified.
Right. But you can surmise that Area 51 is being used in the so-called War on Terror now, right?
Oh, absolutely. The drone that went down over Iran, kind of over Christmas, there was that brouhaha when they perhaps jammed our drone, we're not sure, but it was called the Beast of Kandahar, that spy drone, and it had been spying on Iran. That is actually a legacy of Area 51. It was created by the Lockheed Skunk Works, who built the original spy planes I write so much about, the U-2 and the Oxcart, and it was being flown specifically by the CIA in these very secret scenarios. Uh-huh. And when that plane went down, that is a sort of was born out of Area 51, and it was kind of this almost like our Gary Powers moment. Remember when Gary Powers was shot down in 1960?
Over the Soviet Union, right?
Yeah, so there's so many parallels there.
Annie, there's a lot of questions I want to ask you. Annie Jacobsen with us, author of Area 51, an uncensored history of America's top secret military base. Briefly, the Cold War, nuclear testing, what was the most goosebump-raising thing that you learned about nuclear testing or weapons testing during the Cold War?
Well, it would have to be when I learned that we set off a dirty bomb in 1957. And even more amazing to me was that I was able to interview the security guard. His name is Richard Mingus. He was a big player at Area 51 as a security guard. He was the original Area 51 security guard, and he would moonlight keeping watch on these atomic tests. So he sat on some of the largest atmospheric nuclear weapons tests out there. He gave me these amazing photographs of, bombs going off in the desert, mushroom clouds and all that he let me publish in the book. But when he stood watch over this dirty bomb test. And that's kind of, we hear about dirty bombs, what would happen if the terrorists got a hold of a nuclear bomb and it didn't have an actual explosion that produced a mushroom cloud, but rather kind of scattered radioactive particles. Well, we tested that out there. And to this day, 895 acres in the little area called Area 13, right next door to Area 51, those 895 acres are contaminated with plutonium, which has a half-life of 22,000 years.
Wow. Annie Jacobsen, author of the book Area 51. Learn more at area51thebook.com. Annie, you write that even President Bill Clinton didn't have full knowledge of what military contractors at Area 51 were up to. What kind of oversight is there?
Very little. I mean, you could say there's a lot of oversight on certain projects. A lot of the Air Force projects have oversight. But once you delve into these sub-agencies inside CIA, inside the Atomic Energy Commission, which is now called the Department of Energy, then you get toward the heart and soul of these black projects that I write about. Yeah. And that's, of course, where so many of these conspiracy theories, arise with very good reason, because whenever you have that kind of secret keeping and the kind of money and the kind of science and technology and the kind of advanced war weapons, it just gives room for all kinds of speculation.
Sure. There's no evidence that Mitt Romney was bullying anyone there, right?
I did not find Mitt Romney bullying, and believe it or not, I didn't find Mitt Romney bullying any little green men.
Wow. Well, let's get to the little green men. I love it. Annie Jacobsen, author of Area 51. Great book. Annie, you tie the UFO incident in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947 to Area 51 in what way? Go ahead.
Well, that is hands down the most controversial part of my book. People, it's a very polemic reaction from, wow, it makes perfect sense, to how dare you suggest such a thing. But of course, I'm not suggesting anything. What I am doing as a reporter, I'm reporting what was told to me. And in the last 7 pages of my book, I write about a very disturbing, chilling, dark program that this source, who is very highly placed with his top secret and his Q clearance, what he told me went on at Area 51 that links Roswell and Area 51 together is stunning, is shocking, but as a reporter it made perfect sense. And after really thinking through the ideas of relaying that story to my readers and letting them decide, that's what I decided to do. It's a Cold War project. It involves human testing. It involves aircraft that looks like airplanes, but it really speaks to the bigger issue behind all of this, which is that idea of the War of the Worlds. Right. And I believe that is the most plausible answer to what went on in the desert. I hope people read.
I have to confess, Annie, I went and read that section of the book. I leaped ahead.
Oh no!
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed all the stuff about Mitt Romney not bullying a little green men. But at dinner last night, I told my partner your theory, and he said absolutely plausible, absolutely logical. So I will direct everyone, read the book first, and then read that part. How about that?
Oh, terrific. See, that's what I love to hear, because I think when you're given this kind of very objective but very heart-pumping, riveting story of what it was like to be a warrior in the Cold War.
That's right. Then you can put it in context, right?
Absolutely, and you realize this. You've got the threat of World War III nuclear annihilation jammed down your throats in a very real manner. I mean, This was not a few terrorists with some possible, bad things. This was an entire nation with over 1,000 thermonuclear weapons and the means to get them here.
Right.
And that's a scary thought for a lot of people.
Just if you can, to whet people's appetite before we go, and we're a little over here, your source and the crouton. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I get a very limited bit of information from my source, who had to be extraordinarily careful giving me this information. It's still classified. And when you're talking about the kind of deep, dark government secrets that people have gone to such extreme lengths over 5 decades, 6 decades, now in the 7th decade, to cover up, you can be sure that there's a network of folks who don't want that information out. And so as I kept working with the source over a period of 2 years to get more information from him, and I would often say, how much information do I have? And at one point, he put a little crouton on the table from my salad, and he said, I said, if that's how much is that how much information I have? Is there a dinner plate of more information? And he said to me, it's actually bigger than this whole table.
Love that. Boy, if that's not enough to whet your appetite to get into the book, I don't know what is. And Annie, congratulations on the bestseller. The book is Area 51, An Uncensored History of America's Top Secret Military Base. And as you heard Annie say, not just Roswell, but put into context of what was going on there during an extraordinary time in our history, the Cold War, the Manhattan Project, all of it. A great read. Annie, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, again, the website is area51thebook.com.